Is it on? Can you guys hear me? All right. There's a rumor I don't speak real loud, so that'll really make me up. That was really beautiful, Raul. I had told John a few weeks ago if he needed someone to preach that, I could say something. Not because I'm gifted or anything, but just because, our pastor passed away, and I thought, it's the right thing to do, step up until God provides us a new shepherd. And I had no idea what I was going to talk about, but I always knew if I ever did talk, I will, can you not hear me? Yeah, you can. I always knew if I ever did give a sermon, I knew how I was going to start. Get it closer? Is that better? Okay. I always knew how I was going to start. I was going to start like those guest speakers. Do you ever notice we get those guest speakers? And I always thought they're really cool because they'll go up and talk about their education, their experience for like 15, 20 minutes. And then they only talk for like 10 minutes. And I'm like, oh, I could do that. You know what I mean? That's easy. So and I said the process, as I was writing that down, all my education, because it's really big and everything, I thought of something. A verse came into mind. Daniel, can you put up that passage? There you go. They put it up there. Jeremiah 29:11 popped up. And as I was writing all my education and my resume, like my life experience, this kept on popping into my head, Jeremiah 29:11. And I said, okay, God, this is what you want me to talk about. So I'll just get started the same way that I started, writing it. I had a folder here with all my education. There it is. Right here, see, education. Oh, it fell out. Here it is. Okay. I don't know if we get 15 minutes. I don't know if we get 15 minutes out of this, but oh boy. Let's see what I could do here. It says I graduated high school. I'm usually really impressed with those guest speakers. By the time they're done, they're like fifth cousins to Ellen White, and we're thinking, they're always conference presidents, and we're thinking, well, bring it, man. You better preach to me, because I want to, with a resume like that, but I hope my standards ain't that high. But I graduated high school in 1990. I flunked first grade. Don't know how I got out of kindergarten. And back then, they called it flunk. They didn't care about hurting your feelings. You were a flunky. Everybody knew you were a flunky. You flunked first grade. There was none of this repeat or held back. No, you flunked because you're dumb. And that's just the way it was. I graduated in 1990 reading at the third or fourth grade level. And that's not a lie. I was in all those special ed classes, the resource classes, all those where those special kids were. That was me. About 15 years ago, I needed my high school transcripts for a job. And it's really cool if you never got your transcripts. It shows all the kids that graduated with you. And I went to a small school, it was 144 kids. And it shows your rank. So you could say, oh, top 25, top 10, I'm number one. But no. Well, I was 142. And when I saw that, I said, yes, I'm not last. I was like, all right, 142, that means there's 200 kids worse than me. So I always want to get 140 or 144, take a group picture, see, hey, where are you now? That kind of a thing. But my education doesn't stop there because I couldn't read. In 92, if you guys are old enough, they used to sell these things called Hooked on Phonics. You guys remember that? You get it for kids, like little kids. But I was like 21, and it was kind of embarrassing because I can't read or write. So I ordered Hooked on Phonics, and I'm all excited, got the box. The problem is, you got to read. You need somebody to read it. See, I don't know. So you guys can understand me better. Every word I read, I at one time or another saw someone read it. I heard somebody say it. So I memorized. See, I don't read. Those are all words that I memorized to me. So I can't, if I've never seen a word spoken, heard it spoken, following along in a hymn or at school or something, I can't pronounce it. A good example is Sabbath school, and now you guys are going to be in Sabbath school, December 4th. When I'm reading the lesson, a lot of these old towns or cities in the Bible or names, I'm reading, I'll just skip right over it because I don't know what it means. I've never heard that say. Too many continents, and it's like a lot of J's, and it's weird, right? So I'll just skip it. So next time you guys, if you guys come to Sabbath school, you guys go follow along, and you say, oh, hey, Rolando missed cat. We'll let them know. You guys could circle it at the end of the service. Hey, Rolando, that word right there, it was cat. The cat went up the tree. So it's okay. You won't hurt my feelings. The problem is those words aren't very common, so I won't remember them. So that's how it was. Let me see here. And I'm not trying to make fun of myself. I'm just trying to make an illustration here, how bad it is. It was about 2 weeks ago, I asked Arcee in the kitchen, I said, how do you spell right? Does it end with TH or HT? Remember? I told her this just a couple weeks ago. My phone doesn't know because I wrote it too many times wrong that it gives me both options. Okay? That's how bad it is, okay? When I Google something, a lot of times you guys Google something that says, did you mean this? So when I do it, Google says, can you take a minute? And it goes and asks DuckDuckGo or one of the other search engines and says, I don't know what this guy's trying to spell. So I have to change it up until finally I see something that looks familiar and I said, yeah, that's what I needed. Because I know what it means when I see it, but I can't spell it. So that's about it with my education. I got a lot of life experience in no particular order. I just wrote this stuff down as it popped into my head. Grew up in a small town, moved to Orange County, California. I was 19. Grew up Jehovah's Witness. 6 months in the early 90s, I was homeless, living out of my car. Grew really, really poor. Grew up really poor. Only person poorer than me that I know of was my wife, growing up in Mexico. Great thing about growing up poor, when you're a kid, you don't know you're poor. That's the parents' problems, you know what I mean? We ate beans and my mom ate tortillas, so I was fine. Bully as a kid, but that was just normal back then. It's like, hey, it was cool you get bullied, no big deal. Nowadays, it's like, oh, bullying is bad. It's like, began working in the grapevines when I was 5 with my mom. By 10 or 12, I was operating farm equipment. Got into more fights than I remember and during school. See, if they ranked you by fights, I would have had a 4.0 grade point average. But got high for the first time when I was around 11 years old. 22, because I was so irresponsible, for an accident, I caused an accident really bad, left a man really disabled. Think about it a lot every time that I drive by the area for something foolishness that I did. I've lost 2 businesses. I made more money than I've ever imagined. Somebody would tell me I was a kid, you were going to do this. I would say, well, maybe you belong in special ed. Not me. Something's wrong with this guy. I've hurt a lot of people, hurt people I love, and though they forgive me, that's one thing. It's hard to forgive yourself. I've sinned before the Lord and fallen short of His glory more times than I could count. I'm not a man after God's own heart. I didn't grow up in all the Seventh-day Adventist schools and all that old good stuff. I put myself in situations that I look back now when I was younger and I should be dead or in jail for a long, long time. I've done some stupid things when I was younger. And that only scratches the surface. When I was about 10 or 11 years old, an uncle tells, and I say this so you guys could get the picture of how I was perceived, because I saw myself through those lenses. An uncle asked my mom, is he mentally retarded? And I was like, I'm standing right here. It's like, but I was raised that you don't talk back, so you don't talk back to the older people. So I saw myself because the way everyone else saw myself. I was stupid. I was Forrest Gump before there was a Forrest Gump. There's no reason for me not to believe that. Around 7 or 8, violently and just in the most horrible ways imaginable, abused. And by the pure grace of God, I'm a functioning member of society and not in prison, a junkie, or on the streets. I can't explain it. Just acts that shouldn't be done to a boy. Now, as I see all this, and it's like, I could justify everything for not to be in this position, but I look at this verse and I say, wow, that totally applies to me. I think no matter what your background is, I know a lot of you young kids, whatever trouble you guys have, this totally applies to you guys. Your future's way ahead of you guys. And I think I'm here because of the decisions, and we talked about this, Melissa talked about this in Sabbath school, about decisions and choices you make in your life, how you get here, how you're going to respond with the challenges that come your way. Well, it turns out later on in life, I found out that the reason I had a hard time learning wasn't so much because I was special, but I had this thing called dyslexia, and it's really hard for me to learn how to read. I had the bonus one where numbers mix me up as well. And it's unlike the other disabilities, like where you're being deaf or you're blind or you can't, walk. Those are self-explanatory. But in the 70s and 80s, it's like dyslexia is like, what's wrong with him? Well, that boy's stupid. That's just how it was. There wasn't anything other than that. But nowadays, it's like the cool disability you have. Everybody wants to have a dyslexia. They even write books about it called The Gift of Dyslexia, the advantages of dyslexia, how our brain works different and how we conceive different ideas. And I think it's true for most parts because I don't understand how I could have made it this far, just being normal. I think God said that boy needs to be special, and he threw a little special in me. But I was looking at Jeremiah 29:11 and I asked myself constantly, because the devil makes me doubt myself, we're all given choices. The two thieves on the cross were given choices, but only one of them took it. Everyone was given the same choices. My best friend in 4th grade, we were given the same choices, and a year ago, he had a shootout with the sheriffs in California. Now he's going to be in jail the rest of his life. We all grew up the same way. And I know God's given us choices. Even during very difficult times, I know I've seen God's plans for me. I've seen his fingerprints all over my life. As I look back, I'm like, wow, he was there. He was there when I was sleeping in my car. You know what I mean? God's prospered me in more ways imaginable that I would have never dreamed of, growing up the way I did. Hopes for a future in difficult times. My son and wife, we still don't know if they're going to lose their jobs. They may lose their jobs because of the vaccine. And do I think about it? I ask her every day when she gets home. Did they say anything? Any words? Of course I think about it. But overall, 3 months ago, we closed our business. I wasn't worried about work on you. God has a track pattern. After 50 years of my life, God has shown me he got a plan for me. Yes. And I've already lost one business, and I lost the second one. That I don't need to worry. Now, is it human nature to just worry? Well, yeah, of course I do. And I ask, and we got to prepare. We got to be wise and prepare for what comes next. But I know without a shadow of a doubt, God has plans to prosper me, and he has hopes, plans for my future. But the choices we make, it's like a lot of times we think it's the large choices in life. Lord, do I buy this house? Lord, do I buy that? Do I build a swimming pool? Big choices, but a lot of times the biggest, it's the small things that have the largest impact in your life. And I found in my life, and a lot of times as young kids, you guys don't realize, but it's those small decisions that are going to dictate where your life goes. Do I move to this church? Do we stay where we're at? Do I go to summer camp, or do I go to that one? Lauren, one of the twins, shared a story that there was a summer camp that she wanted to go to a few weeks ago. She preached up here. But she really wanted to go to this one. She already envisioned herself skiing on the lake all summer long. But God kept telling her, don't go to that one. We need you to go to this other one. She's like, Lord, I don't want to go to that one. I want to go skiing. Well, she listened to God, right? And what happened? She went to a camp where she ended up meeting the man that she would get married with. God knows what he's doing. Do I go to Walla Walla College or La Sierra? You think, they're both good Christians, but God has a plan for you on which one to go. Do I join this gym or that one? Do I accept a friend on Facebook or not? Making small talk at the gas station. Some of the smallest decisions will have the largest impacts in your life. And I do say accepting a friend request on Facebook because 2012 I accepted somebody, and that's for another day. But that one friend request from a stranger has had one of the largest impacts in our lives to this day. And I'll share that next time. But I'm thinking, how do you know if you're making the right choices? Are you supposed to stop every time? Oh, Lord, this guy just invited me to lunch. Should I go? You know what I mean? Oh, I just got a friend request from, is that the, oh no, I don't want to be friends with him, Lord. You know, how do we know? And I think it's like, how do we live our lives? How do we wake up? Do you wake up on your knees every day? Do you wake up every day putting the whole armor of God? And the whole armor of God, the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, the shield of faith, the sword of the Spirit, the lion girdle of truth, the shod of the preparation of the gospel of peace. How are you preparing yourself every day? So when these everyday little decisions come about, you're not stopping. I just think they're automatic. God is guiding you, you know, and helping you make these decisions. I really think for the youth, the young people, you know, we can't go back into time. In Hollywood you can, but you can't go back into time and change anything. For the young people here, you guys could reach into the hands of time, and you guys could play with your future. You guys could decide right now if your future, when you're 50, and you could stand up here and say, I prosper, and I have hope for a future. And it's all those little choices you make. All those little choices. When you guys go off to college, do you go out with the guys? Is it a girls' night out? Do you listen to that little voice in your head and say, well, dad's not here. You know, mom's not here. They'll never know. When you're out in the real world and you guys are alone, when your parents can't guide you, these are the times in your lives, these next choices in your lives are what's going to decide what your future's like. You guys do have a say in your future. You guys could play with it and tinker it. And it's completely up to you guys. Because the beautiful thing about this, God wants us to prosper. See, I envision God writing up a plan, and he has plans for us, and he puts it in a folder like this, and he says, go give this to Rolando, and we get it, and we look at it, and we say, well, I don't know, I don't like this part right here. Give me some white out. And we change it up. See, the beautiful thing with God is that he doesn't force us. He allows us. We're an active participant in God's plan. He gives it to us, and we could follow along, or we don't. You don't have to. He's not going to twist your arm. And it's up to you. And it's we need to have that relationship with Christ that when those little choices, and we see that he's opening doors for us, that we're not on the other side closing the door. And we're so many times we see the door open and we know what we should be doing, but we're like, I don't like that door. Let me shut that. And how many times have we seen ourselves do that? Prosper has evolved to me over the years. The word prosper, when I was living in my car, prosper was having 99 cents so I could go to AM PM and get me 2 hot dogs for $1. That was prosper. I was like, yeah, 2 hot dogs, load it up, yeah. You know what I mean? So it evolves as you get older. You get older, hey, you know, you made your car payment. Yeah, good. And but when you're younger, prosper has dollar signs in front of it. But as you get older, the word prosper, I don't know if anyone you guys have ever given it much thought, but it changes. It becomes something else. For King Solomon, prosper was having wisdom to rule over God's people. He wasn't even thinking of money. He was like, oh my God, these people are crazy, Lord. Your people are crazy. How am I going to rule over them? I think he was stressed because he's thinking, if I don't do a good job, they're going to kill me. So he didn't ask for wealth. He just asked for wisdom, and God gave him both. So there's somebody I met when I was a kid. His name was Hector Velasco. And now I know why I flunked first grade, because God needed me to meet up with this guy. Because we meet up with people, and we either become blessings for them, or they're blessing for us, or vice versa. We don't know how God's using us to work with people. And I understand now that he was a year younger than me, so I needed to be held back. So, you know, when God was making me, he was pouring that special in there. An angel came and hit him in the elbow and poured a whole container. And because he said, this guy's going to meet somebody. And his name's Hector Velasco. I met him when we were maybe in 4th grade, grew up best friends. And when we were in high school, I think I was a sophomore in high school, he was like, hey, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to go to Bible study. You want to come? He's like, sure, let's go. Bible study. Maybe there's girls. Who knows? You know how guys are. But sure, we went to Bible studies. And no, he had a girlfriend. He didn't say that. So he went, and the following week, he was there again. And he started going, and I'm not even going. He says, where are you going? Bible study. Where are you going? Oh, I'm going out with the boys. You knock yourself out. He was on fire with the Lord. Daniel, can you put that first picture up of Hector? There's Hector. That's Hector and his daughters. He, a few months later, he got baptized, and was from a Catholic family. And during his baptism, he credited me for bringing him to the Lord. I just brought him to someone to give the Bible studies. That's all I did. But Prosper now to Hector, compared to what it was before being a Christian, and now, I believe it changed. Prosper evolves. I know if I when I meet Hector again and ask him if he prospers, he's going to say yes. It was about 17 years ago or so. I was at the city dump, and my niece calls me, and she tells me, "Do you know Hector Velasco?" And I said, "Do I know Hector Velasco? Do Mexicans eat tacos? Come on, Of course I know Hector Velasco." He said, "He's dead." And I'm like, "Excuse me?" He's dead. And that's all I remember. I cried for the next 20 minutes there at the city dump like a baby. And comes out, I find out a few days later, he got rear-ended going to Thunderbird Academy, picking up his 3 children, those 2 of them. That's me and Hector when we graduated. You go to the next one, Daniel. That's Hector. And he was driving to Thunderbird Academy, pick up his daughters. And the moment I heard that, see, the devil had pitched a little tent next to me, because then he whispered in my ear and said, if you would have never invited him to Bible study, he'd still be a good Catholic boy, and he'd be alive. And he did. It bothered me for a long time. If you would have never invited him, you should have just left him alone. In my selfishness, I wish he was still alive so I could spend another day with my friend. But, if we went back to the church I grew up in California several years back, and as I walked into the church, I saw a lot of Hector's family. Now, Hector had like 10 brothers and 2 sisters, and they took that whole verse that says, be fruitful and multiply. Yeah, they took it pretty serious. I looked around and I said, there's a lot of Velascos here. And his brother David walked up to me, big old smile. They were always smiling. And David looked at me and he pointed at everyone in the church. He said, look at the mess you made. Because of Hector's death, it brought all his family who were Catholic into the church. And if I could borrow one of Pastor Tim's sayings, Pastor Tim used to always say, in my 5th grade imagination, I've been 31 years since I graduated, so my imagination might be at 5th grade level, because I was reading at the 3rd or 4th. So in my 5th grade imagination, I imagine being in heaven one day talking to Hector. And I'm going to ask her, Hector, did you prosper? He's going to say, absolutely. I'm going to say, but how? You died at 33 years of age. How can you say you prospered and had hope for a future? And he's going to tell me in my imagination that he's going to say that the best thing that ever happened to him on earth is when I invited him to Bible study. Then he's going to say the second best thing that happened was dying on that freeway that Friday afternoon. That happened to be Samantha's birthday. He died on September 30th. And it was, I look forward to that day, being able to see my friend again. And he's going to have a different perspective on what prosper is, because what good is prospering all the riches that God gives us without our family? When you prosper, you achieve great wealth, you want to share with the people you love. And Hector had found the greatest treasure of all, the salvation of Jesus Christ. And through him, His whole family, who were second, third generations Catholics, came to Christ. Are you going to tell me if he could do it all over again, if he would change a single thing? I know he wouldn't. He would leave it all exactly the same. That's what Prosper was to Hector. I left San Bernardino in 1994. Company I worked for told me, Rolando, we need you to move to Las Vegas. I said, oh, can't do that. I'm good here. I said, we don't have work for you. When do you want me to move? I'll pack up right now. So I moved to Las Vegas. I was young. I was really scared. At that time, I still couldn't read or write much more than at the 5th grade level. The only good thing I was good at was the trade I had. So I was fearful of losing that job because that's all I knew how to do. I was so insecure and thought so low of myself, I didn't even think I could go good enough to join the military and be a grunt. Friends told me they had jobs at Del Taco or jobs here at the gas station. I couldn't get out of my comfort zone. I was going to do what I know how to do. And whatever my job told me, I was going to be a slave to my job and move wherever they told me to move. So I came to Las Vegas, scared, and the first thing I did was found a church. I went to find, back then they had these big old things, they were called phone books. You young people don't know? They're like that big. And about that much was white and that much was yellow, this much was white. Or the other way around, I don't know. No, this phone. So I looked in there and there was a Seventh-day Adventist church, Mountain View. Great church, went, the got invited into the young adults class, the cool kids, oh yeah, I'm a cool kid now, They went on Sabbath afternoon hikes. I'm like, all right, they invite me to their homes for Sabbath afternoon lunch, free food, all right, you're single, not making a lot, that's, wherever you could get it. But God kept telling me, this ain't the church for you. You need something else. You need to find a Spanish church. I'm like, but I'm okay here, Lord. It's like, come on. Why are you going to ruin a good thing? We're making friends here. All right. So I looked in that phone book. There was only one other church. It was on Highland, Abundant Life. So I'm like, okay, let's go check this one out. And I walk in there, and I'm like, whoa, darker shade of brown. Like, okay. This will work. Now, if you guys have never gone to an African-American church, you don't know what they're missing. Because they worship at a whole new level. They turned it up quite a bit, and it was beautiful. Both churches were beautiful. I could have made great friends, great families at both churches. Could have made a good life there. But God kept telling me, find a Spanish church. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm looking and looking. I heard from a person that told a friend that the Spanish church rented the Lutheran church, a fellowship hall. So I walk in one Sabbath afternoon, they were having Vespers, and I walk in, and I find my wife leading out in song service. And she tells me later on that she leaned over to the girl next to her and said, that's my boyfriend. I'm like, oh, well, you could tell me. But told her friend first. So if she ever says she don't know how to sing, well, that's a lie. That's when I first laid eyes, she was leading in song service. The difference with 1994 and today is back then I was a slave to my job. Today, my company told me I have to move. I would say, no, you're fired. Well, nice working with you. God has given me the confidence. God has given me the assurance. God has given me hope for the future, to know that I'm not a slave to nobody. And no company is going to dictate what I do. God needed me at that time to come to Las Vegas, and I think that's why he didn't mature me as fast as he did. He has a plan for all of us. And I think in 1994, I needed to be that scared young man that didn't want change. Because if I was the same person now, then I wouldn't have moved. And God had plans for me here. So we all mature and we grow at different stages, and there was a purpose for that. Now today I could stand here. We closed the business. We were sad that we closed the taco truck business. But sad because, we had it for so long, but weren't fearful for gainful employment. I always knew that. Now I'm confident in myself. I could work anywhere, do anything. I don't have a problem finding work. Um, but so ask yourself, what's prosper for you? Prosper is being a slave to your job wherever they decide that you go. Um, is prosper having the freedom, going where God wants you to go? Uh, it changes. But as much as I like to stand here and tell you, hey, I made all the right choices. I've I always decided the right decisions. I didn't. Far too many times I didn't wake up and put it on that form or God. I didn't pray. I'll be honest with you. I'm a broken, shattered man, and just held together by the grace of God. And with scars that won't heal, and emptiness, I recognize won't be filled. But that's me. But I'm okay with that. But you don't. God still works with you. It doesn't matter who you are, what your background is. He has plans for you. But I ask myself, how is it possible that someone like me could have made enough right choices to get here? Because I made a lot of wrong ones. Way too many ones. I had an open freeway if I would just listen to God. But no, I got off the path and had to go off to a side road and go hiking up the mountain. And he got me making a big old round loop and get me back. I made it harder on myself. And I was like, sometimes in parts of my life, I felt someone praying for me. And I'm like, why, what is it? And as I thought about it, and I know what it is. The night my mom died, 29 years ago, her last requests were to my uncle. She asked, watch over the boys for me. And she was referring to me because my older brothers were already set. They had their careers. She knew where I was. I was very dependent on her. And I have, without a doubt, I know that she prayed for me that night. She prayed for her baby son, the youngest. She prayed for me and that God guide me and be with me and protect me. And I believe that 29 years later, God hears those echoes. God hears the echoes of a mother's cry, saying, "Be with Rolando." I really believe 29 years later, God says, "Good and faithful servant, I'm going to honor these prayers." Now, your boy's going to be a hard-headed, and he's not going to listen, and he's going to go astray, but I'll be there. The power of prayer is very powerful. Ishmael was leaving, and Abraham told God, he's my boy. Can you hook him up? Can you pray for him? And God said, are you sure about that? And he said, well, yeah, I said, okay, you're going to regret it, but he'll also be a great nation. When parents pray for their kids, and this is really important, and this is for the parents, pray for your children, because pray for your grandchildren. Because as children don't pray for themselves. Pray that they make those right choices in their lives. Pray that when they're by themselves with adults and even as they're toddlers, that God bless them and give them the strength to say, I shouldn't be here. Amen. Pray when they're teenagers, when they're young adults, and when they're alone and they're in situations that they could make those right choices, because the devil just needs them to fall one time. One good fall. And he'll hang it over their heads the rest of their lives. One good fall brings on a second one, and it's a domino effect. And I wish I could stand here and say, hey, you're never going to fall. We know that's not true, but it helps if you're prepared and if you're ready for that. So it's very, I give credit for my life, for my mom, for prayer for me, how she prayed for me, deeply prayed for me. And I have no doubt, and that's the only reason. It makes no sense that I'm here. It's no joke. I shouldn't be here. I should be on the streets. I'm the perfect case study to be anything but a functioning member of society. So we want to end with a closing song. Now, I'm not a singer. I don't sing. But remember I told you I met my wife. she don't know this. She's going to help me lead in the closing song. Okay? And when I met her, she can't say she doesn't know. And so the difference now is Samantha's going to play guitar. The song is in Spanish. We have the song up, Daniel? It's called Un Día a la Vez. And the beautiful thing with Spanish is that it doesn't matter if you guys read at the third grade level or not. There are no silent vowels. There are no long vowels. You say it the way it's spelled. Even the third grader could read it. So it's really easy. So I need your guys' help, especially I know there's a lot of people here who speak Spanish. So I need you guys' help to help us lead out in this song. I'll be in trouble later. Okay. Let's turn this one off and we'll turn this one on. All right. Samantha, she'll lead us out, and if everyone could please help out. All right.
Necesitado me encuentro, Señor. Ayúdame hoy, yo quiero saber lo que debo hacer. Muestra el camino que debo seguir. Señor, por mi bien, yo quiero vivir un día a la vez. Un día a la vez, Dios mío, es lo que pido de ti. Dame la fuerza para vivir un día a la vez. Ayer ya pasó, Dios mío, y mañana quizás no vendrá. Ayúdame hoy, yo quiero vivir un día a la vez. Tú ya viviste entre los hombres. Tú sabes, Señor, que hoy está peor, es mucho el dolor, hay mucho egoísmo y mucha maldad. Señor, por mi bien, yo quiero vivir un día a la vez. Un día a la vez, Dios mío, es lo que pido de ti. Dame la fuerza para vivir un día a la vez. Ayer ya pasó, Dios mío, y mañana quizás no vendrá. Ayúdame hoy, yo quiero vivir un día a la vez. Ayúdame hoy, yo quiero vivir un día a la vez.
All right. Amen. Thank you guys all very much.